much, so much, so much. So I'm glad that I have an anchor for this month, which is all over the world, Centers for Spiritual Living, which is one of the streams of New Thought, the New Thought movement. They tend to go back to basics, and they tend to talk about what it is that is the basis for science of mind. And instead of kind of going through this 600-ish page book or whatever that is so thick with so much stuff, they turn to the introduction, which is about 60 pages long at the very beginning, and there are 4 parts to it. And so we have talked about the thing itself, we have talked about the way it works, and this week we're talking about what it does. So there's this thing, call it what you will, it's the only thing going on, everyone and everything is that. And then this thing, if it didn't do what it does, would just be this beingness, would be this potentiality, would be just opportunity. And so in order for it to actually fulfill itself, to express, to feel itself, to know itself, it has to fulfill and express itself in, through, and as something. And that something is us. That something is this sea of subjectivity that is available and happening all the time. This is where all the memories, all the thoughts, all the ideas, all the dreams, the inspiration, all of it exists all the time. And whatever we think into it, whatever impresses itself through that, ends up becoming our life experience. And so our life experience is what happens. So spirit, this thing, this potentiality, in order for it to really experience itself, must experience itself in, through, and as something. And that's who and what we are, and that is what becomes our life experience. So I have a quote for you by Ernest Holmes. Spirit is changeless reality. Spirit is never bound by the form it takes and is not affected by any apparent cause or condition, but is forever free. Okay? So this thing, it just is, okay? It's not bound by anything, even when it expresses itself in, through, and as us. Unique, original, unrepeatable expressions, active expressions, forever unfolding, forever evolving of this thing, of spirit, of universe, of consciousness, of love, of God, whatever you want to call it. Even though it may take form, it isn't bound by that form. Because that form, us, we get to choose how much of that freedom we want to experience. We get to choose every single moment. We are choosing every single moment how much of that allness, how much of that potentiality we want to express as. We're the ones. No one else is making that choice for us, and we're not limiting spirit by being who we are. So what it does is what we're talking about today. And there are 2 aspects of this what it does. There's the universal, so that's the grand scheme of things. That's consciousness, that's God, that's essential unconditional love itself, that's the quantum field. What it needs to do is it needs to express itself in, through, and as everyone and everything. It needs an outlet in order to experience itself. We are that outlet. But if we go back a few months and we go back to that Alan Watts video that kind of blew my mind, where he was talking about, if I'm so powerful and I can make myself do this, and then I can make myself do this, and then I can make myself do this, and I can experience this, am I powerful enough that I can make myself forget that I am all powerful? And that's where we come in. We are here to remember who we are. We are here to rediscover that we are that allness expressing itself in, through, and as everyone and everything. And so on the universal, it's expressing and it's fulfilling itself. On the individual level, we are remembering and we're rediscovering. So this morning I was at the gym on the assault runner. Doesn't that sound cool? I was on the assault runner, which is a nifty machine, which I prefer the treadmill. I walk on it. And as I was looking out the window, a big truck pulled up in front of where a bulk barn is. I don't know if that's where it was going. And on the truck, it said, "Elevate the power of your work." Okay? And so I'm there and I'm like, yeah, of course. And so I'm thinking elevate. And I have to say, immediately when I saw it, I'm like, elevate the power of your word, because I'm so focused on the book study that Glenn is doing on Saturdays with the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And impeccability with your word is the first agreement. So, I'm reading it and I'm going like, elevate the power of your word, right? But I'm like, no, hold on a second. Like what I'm talking about tonight is about consciousness, about God, love, spirit, source, whatever, and what it does. And so I'm like, that fits in with work, right? And because it's elevate, I mean, hello, how perfect was that, right? But elevate, really, that is to up level, that is to grow, that is to expand, that is to lean into the new, the unknown, the different, the unyet experienced. That's all elevating is about. And so I thought, yeah, this is it. So what does this company do? So I looked up this company, which is called Iron Mountain. And I said to Glenn on the way here, I must have looked at that website like 10 times, and I'm still not 100% sure what they do. However, there were 4 key points on there, because there's something about strategy and systems and digital and making your partner and whatever. And I'm like, that's not my world. I'm sure it's great for a lot of other people, but it's not my world. But these 4 points, I thought, okay, I can totally put a new thought spin on this. So they would talk about digital transformation, data and IT security, sustainability, and workplace evolution. So I picked out the key words, the first one being transformation. Isn't this what we are doing, like constantly, even if we're not aware of it? We are constantly choosing how much of that allness we want to express as. We are constantly leaning into something. A lot of times it's what's happened in the past, right? Memories, behavior, choices. 95% of the time, we're just kind of moving through life unconsciously, programmed by our subconscious beliefs that are in our subjective mind. And then there's that 5% of the time where we are really clear and focused and present on that ski hill as the muscles are aching, but kind of going, whoa, this is really kind of cool. I'm super aware, right? And so our work is to become more aware. And that transformation is continually taking place. It's a back and forth tug of war. I'm asleep, I'm awake, I'm asleep, I'm awake, I'm aware, I'm not aware. And so I thought, okay, transformation, that works. Consciousness is constantly expanding on the universal, in the individual. Security. I thought, okay, well, what is security about? That's about like knowing something. That's about trusting something. That's about surety, right? And so to me, I'm like, this is about trust and faith. And that can come into play in so many different ways, right? Like, why do I come here? Why am I here? Why do I have the spiritual practices or don't have the spiritual practices in place? Why a whole bunch of stuff? But once you get really clear on this is who and what I am, and this is what my work is to do, then you start to trust that even if you don't know how to take the next step, even if you are about to walk off a cliff, the bridge will appear, the wings will sprout, the resources, the teachers, the opportunities that you require to remember who you are will reveal themselves, because guess what? They're always available, always. Everything is always available to us. We're just the ones that close ourselves off or have some kind of hazy lens or glasses or something, some kind of obstruction before us. So we can't see how abundant and rich and resourceful we truly are. So security, surety, consistent spiritual practice, trust and faith. And then sustainability. Well, ongoing, something that can be ongoing, right? So you want to, as you start to awaken, as you start to become more aware, as you continually up level, you want to make sure that maybe you're not biting off more that you can chew, that, maybe you're not real like jumping, trying to jump over there kind of thing. You're just taking a step, because even though it's within the realm of possibility to have a quantum leap right here, right now, and then know everything that you need to know and experience everything that's yours to experience, the journey is just as important, and it takes as long as it takes. So you want to have practices in place. You want to have the faith and the conviction in place that's going to keep you going sustainability, because this journey is ongoing. It never, ever, ever ends. And so you don't want to burn yourself out at the beginning, as if you ever could really, because spirit is always going to want to express in, through, and as you. But sustainability. And then the last thing, evolution. Well, that's what it's all about. Growth, expansion, leaning into the more, leaning into the new and the different, because otherwise all we're doing is repeating the same stuff that we've done and been and chosen that's gotten us to this point right here, right now, which maybe some of it is great. But if we want to really consciously continue evolving, if we want to consciously remember who we are, if we want to open ourselves up to living the most amazing, fantastical, beautiful, brilliant, fulfilling, engaging life that we possibly can, that is ours to live, then we need to keep opening up to the new. We need to keep opening up, no matter how scary, no matter how unnerving it can be. And sometimes being pulled and stretched out of that comfort zone can be really scary. It can get really dark really fast sometimes. But that's when the trust comes in. That's when the faith comes in. Knowing that no matter how hard, no matter how challenging, no matter how dark times get, no matter how dark life can feel, that there is that in me that knows. There is that in me that has all the answers to all the questions I could ever possibly ask. Because consciousness is everything, which means there's nothing that's not consciousness, which means all of it is available all the time. So transformation, security, sustainability, and evolution. And all that came from this slogan on this truck that I saw through the window. Elevate the power of your work. So that's what we're here to do. You know, on Wednesdays, expand your mind, open your heart, activate your soul. All of that's happening anyway, but we get to choose to do it consciously. We get to do it more than it would just kind of happen on its own, because we are the creators of our life. We're the ones who decide what our life experience is like. We can try and go along with the flow, but what's the flow? And how much more interesting can it be if we actually open up to the flow and direct it more consciously, right? So the title of my talk today is Elevate the Power of Your Work, okay? And this is all about being more conscious, with conscious meaning aware of who and what you are and how you're living your life. So really, it's about how intentional are you being with remembering who you are? How intentional are you being about the rediscovery of your amazing awesomeness and capability? Ernest Holmes also writes, "We shall always be discovering new lands. Consequently, evolution is an eternal unfoldment of the more yet to be." And so here I wrote another quote of his: "Never limit your view of life by any past experience." So just because life has been a certain way up until now doesn't mean it has to be that way going forward. Just because this has happened 1,000 times doesn't mean it has to happen 1,001. Just because I thought, felt, believed, whatever over here doesn't mean that that's what I have to think, believe, and feel over here. Every moment we get to choose. We have agency. We're the ones. Even when it feels like maybe we don't have a choice, we totally 100% have a choice. So I encourage you, I invite you, choose consciously. Now, at the book study on Saturday, Glenn gave us an assignment. He found a quote by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's the one that we had in meditation. And when he first told me this quote or shared this quote, my heart exploded because it felt so good. And so for those who weren't here for meditation, the quote is, "I am the love of my life." And so just sit with that for a moment, which is what Glenn asked us to do all week. I am the love of my life. I am the love of life. I am any way you sort of just like chunk it down and parse it, try and put punctuation in there, it's all about love expressing in, through, and as me, in, through, and as everyone here. And when we can remember that, when we can really embody that, like feel it in every single cell, system, and organ, every fiber of our being, what a different place the world can be, what a different life we can create for ourselves. Ernest Holmes also writes, should all the wisdom of the universe be poured over us, we should yet receive only that which we are ready to understand. Each receives what he asks for according to his ability to embody. And so this comes back to the work. It's great to notice where you are, and it's also just as important to remember that there is so much more available, so much more to lean into, so many ways to be stretched and pulled and expanded out of our comfort zone into a greater version of who and what we truly are. And it's our job, that is our work, to lean into that, to take part in it consciously, not just passively. We can't participate in our life passively because we're constantly choosing, even if we're not aware of it. So let's choose consciously. Let's participate actively. Now, there was a beautiful book that Glenn got for me when we were in Ventura by Hazrat Inayat Khan. And in there, I actually pulled a whole bunch of stuff out of there for my Sunday talk when I was talking about this. But towards the end, this is what he says, which is our work. The main thing we can do is to awaken ourselves and those around us to a high ideal, to a greater realization of life, and a deeper understanding of truth. As we do that, as we remember and embody this knowing that I am the love of my life, that consciousness is everything, that love is all there is, the more we embrace and embody that, the more we feel it in ourselves, the more we recognize and amplify it in others, and the more we open up the entire world to experiencing more peace, more harmony, more wisdom, more potentiality, more good, and ultimately more love. Because love is all there is, and consciousness is everything. So I'm going to invite you to follow on Glenn's invitation at the book study on Saturday and lean into this affirmation, this invitation, this declaration that I am the love of my life. And so as you move into this week with that as an affirmation, an invitation for yourself to lean into, then I ask you, what's one thing you can do right now to elevate the power of your work? Thank you, and so it is.